Hi everyone, I'm 𝗤𝗶𝗴𝗵 from your Property Associates and welcome to another episode of Building Better Investors. The aim of the series is simple. It's to help property investors, developers and sources make better decisions by understanding what really happens from purchase through to project completion. In the last episode we looked at how to tender a refurbishment properly by selecting suitable contractors, issuing controlled information, managing site visits and recording tender questions and returns. Now in this episode we're going to look at how to analyse the quotes that have come back to us. We will cover completeness checks, exclusions, provisional sums, programme submissions, payment proposals and how to create an adjusted like-for-like comparison before selecting your preferred contractor. So you've sent out all the information, had the site visits, addressed any clarifications, and you've now received all the quotes. Now this is the point where many investors place the totals next to each other, circle the lowest and assume that the analysis is finished. The issue with this is that quotes aren't comparable until you understand how the contractor has come to the final figure. So first off, we'll begin with a basic completeness and arithmetic check. So has every section been priced? Do the subtotals add up? Has VAT been included? Has the contractor returned a provisional or draft copy of a working programme? Have they highlighted any exclusions, any assumptions, and have they provided any documentation that you may have required? Alright, once we've checked that, we're going to check the quote against the scope. So one contractor may include for full decoration while another only includes for making good and minor decorations. One may include scaffold, road closure, licenses, testing and final cleaning, and another may exclude them. So the totals can't be compared fairly until those differences are visible. The next step is to normalise the tenders. So normalising means adjusting the comparisons so each contractor is assessed against the same requirement. So for example, imagine you get 3 quotes for a HMO conversion, one comes back at 92k, one's 104 and one's 109k. Now the 92k tender obviously looks quite a bit cheaper, but it may exclude fire alarm system, scaffolding, final decoration and final cleaning. It also contains £15,000 worth of provisional sums. So taking that into account, once all the exclusions are added, it may now no longer be the lowest or least riskiest proposal. You've also got to pay close attention when it comes to exclusions. An exclusion is something that the contractor has clearly said is not included within the cost. This is automatically a problem, and it's always best to find out at the beginning, at the tender stage, as opposed to halfway through the fit out. But it does catch a lot of people out and it costs money, adds time to the programme, and overall has a negative effect on the project. So it's mega important to confirm or clarify anything that isn't 100% clear in the beginning, when you still have the opportunity to address it. So some common exclusions may include asbestos removal, especially common in properties with old garages or old garage roofs. Utility upgrades, if you're converting to a HMO, does the property have enough power to service the property? So that might need to be upgraded. Party wall costs, scaffold licenses may be excluded, specialist surveys or trades such as damp specialists. Kitchen appliances might be left off the bill, decorating, floor preparation, final cleaning, and any unforeseeable work made necessary by hidden defects. Once we've understood the exclusions, we move on to review the provisional sums and allowances. Now these are usually included in the scope, where the scope isn't fully defined or where the specification hasn't been fully defined. And sometimes this is unavoidable. On a project you may not be able to assess the condition of timber floor joists until the floor's been removed, for instance. So you can only put in a provisional sum. And with provisional sums you want to ask what the allowance actually covers, what quantity or rate has been assumed, how the final value will be assessed, and whether the underlying information can be developed before the contract is signed. Now, we also need to compare programs as well as price. So a contractor who is £5,000 more expensive but can genuinely complete 4 weeks sooner may reduce the finance costs, council tax, insurance, lost rent and management time, all them void costs that you accumulate throughout the project. However, never value a short program or just go with a short program unless the contractor can explain exactly how it's going to be achieved. So you're going to want to know about labour numbers, management of the project, sequencing of trades, have long lead-in items been ordered, and things like that. So again, with programmers, as with costs, you don't always want to just go for the minimal one. Different contractors have different payment terms as well, so you'll want to review the payment proposal. A competitive total can still expose the investor to risk if the contractor expects a large proportion of the contract value before the corresponding work and materials have been delivered, for instance. To avoid any arguments, payment profiles should really reflect the contract and the terms that was agreed within that contract. When we're doing comparisons, we should have a comparison sheet, and the comparison sheet should include submitted price and VAT position, adjustments for missing or differently priced items, any exclusions and provisional sums, proposed duration and start dates, payment profile, design responsibility and key assumptions, clarifications that may still be required, and a short risk assessment of each tender. So what items are at risk, such as long lead-in items or works needing to be completed before final measures and orders can be placed. And once the comparison is complete, hold a tender clarification meeting with the preferred contractor. So this is where you work through the gaps, confirm the scope and record every clarification. The agreed clarification should become part of the contract documents rather than disappearing into an email chain, so there's no arguments later on down the line. So the key takeaway from this is do not select a contractor using the submitted total alone. Compare the adjusted like-for-like price, completeness of scope, credibility of program, payment profile, and the risks still sitting inside the quotation. In the next episode, we'll look at contractor due diligence, including what should be checked before tendering and what must be verified before the final appointment. So follow Building Better Investors so you don't miss the next one. And in the meantime, plan better, build smarter, invest safer.